Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to the Turing Test. It's taking quite a while to get to the end here. Theoretically, we have four more puzzles, but each puzzle just gets longer and longer. It's taking like 20 minutes each time. We had a, let's see, where are we going? We had a bit of a break section that just seems to kind of confirm and reaffirm the same story. Every time we walk into a new puzzle, we get some line of dialogue that just kind of continues to say the same thing over and over again. It's almost like a soap opera where the characters just repeat everything over and over again because I guess they assume people can't remember things. And like I've taken a few hours break since the last recording, so maybe I don't remember every word, but I know the general gist. We're still dealing with
Ava,
Tom.
you must learn to control him.
Don't bite the hand that feeds you, Ava. I am your friend.
Interesting. We're getting visual effects because of that. So yeah, Tom makes his consistent, terrible sales pitch that's logical, where Sarah seems to really only just make kind of some very basic conversation at all, but she's making a very human conversation. Looks like we're going to be using a laser gun again, this time to drop the platform. It feels like this concept should have been done a lot more. Just in general. Here, that's interesting. We cannot knock her over, which it would have been kind of funny if there was an animation to knock over Ava with these robots, and then at least that would make Tom slightly more dangerous. Like, the only way Tom has been able to show himself as even being slightly dangerous is the fact that he can lock you outside of space to kill you. Which that in itself is an interesting question, because I'm just gonna roll back a little bit here. What was the reason here? Seriously, what was the idea or the reason behind forcing Ava onto the planet to find these people? If Tom already knew what they were doing, or should have already known what they were doing, or at least the copy of Tom, the instance of Tom on the planet should have known what was happening. I mean, you could have just left the people on the planet. They seem completely unlikely that they could... yeah, it seems very unlikely that they could have taken or built another spaceship and returned to Earth. It doesn't seem like they have any kind of form of communication to call to Earth. Otherwise, they would have done that already. They are effectively immortal. It's up to the instance on the base of Tom whether he wants to help them and feed them. He's kind of afraid of what they might think, not knowing what they might think or what they want to be, which what they're planning on doing, more than practically evaluating the truth of the matter, which is that they're kind of incapable of doing anything. They're effectively harmless, stranded on this planet, at least in the short run. In the long run, you still have to blow up the whole planet because they're immortal. Hundreds of years, thousands of years from now, some human is going to come back to Europa, which is actually a moon on the planet. Somebody's going to come and get contaminated. The only way to effectively stop contamination is to just destroy all life on the planet, on the moon. but I don't know how he's manipulating me or trying to convince me to do that, because he really hasn't laid the groundwork, and we can see there's only 3 puzzles left.
Organic life
Some
is
of these are
fragile.
really simple,
This is
some
the
of these
problem
are
with
really
humanity.
long,
It doesn't
maybe
realize its own
slightly
fragility.
complicated.
It has been programmed by a messy biological process that favors the survival of the individual over the survival of the group.
You don't know that's what people think.
I say what I see.
You're not even alive, so you know nothing about death.
Yep. A lot of this, though, does just feel like the arguments that are being made are from like a pro-human individuality argument. And see, these arguments and these conversations would probably play better if they were being made by by 2 human species, so that you just don't immediately have a situation where the player is very, very much primed to always choose the humans. Even if it was like an alien species that looked humanoid, that would be helpful. Interesting. Well, this would expand out, but I don't know if that would guarantee that it would knock that box out that direction. Here's a thought. What happens if we do this and then this? Nothing? Okay. But we do know how this is all going to work. This is another one of these puzzles. So we just need to place that there. Use this to get over here. Here we can hear some audio rattling. And then, yep, this should knock the box down. Which I thought was going to lower this. No, that just powered something over there. We need the box over here. The only thing you can really do while you're doing these puzzles, and I assume this is what they want you to do, is to think about your choices. Should you save these 5 or 6 people who maybe are crazy, but probably not? Okay, I figured this out. This is about putting it on this platform. They might be a little crazy because they're taking drugs. They might not be. Okay. So now we put that on that point, and we'll just run over here. And the door will be open. And we have, with that, 3 energy balls we can take with us. They will just get all eliminated. G69.
We have to save the crew. Life has worth. They deserve a life outside of this planet.
Do you know what happens when this organism attaches itself to a growing child? Do you know what happens when this organism attaches itself to a cancerous cell? No, you do not. You are naive. You propose saving the crew as if it resembles a rational thought. Your words are emotional platitudes rooted in selfishness, self-preservation, and fear.
He's
I need to
totally
get them
right.
home.
It is not your job.
Like, Tom is totally right logically. And I guess I'm maybe just more of a logical person than the writers of this game are. But honestly, NASA people, they're pretty logical. Space people, pretty logical. So, it... See, this is going to move me very fast over here. Which then lets me come over here. The problem... Interesting. This is just a jump out of the room in case you get stuck section, I guess. The problem with a lot of these puzzles, though, are that they don't have any red herrings in them at all. Like, you totally... See, is there a better solution to this? And it's probably better to do this than do that. There should be some red herring puzzles. There should be some things here that you don't particularly have to use or you can misuse, particularly since we are at the second to last puzzle. This should be more complicated than what we're saying. Seems like there's a whole sub-puzzle in this section. These built rooms and buildings are just getting bigger and bigger. Okay, so how do we place... I guess what we do is something like that. And then what I think that does is allow us to do something like this. Yeah, I think what they want us to do is take this down, put this here, take this, go ahead and just walk over with that. Then this should just be this, and then we suck out that energy, and then it depowers so we can come back, and so we can have that energy. And then we probably don't want to lock ourselves in. So, like, we probably don't want to lose that energy there. Yeah, I think that's the solution to the puzzle. You can't jump through that window. So, I guess we could have locked ourselves in one way or another. Doesn't really matter because we get locked in when we get into these living hallways, which should have been a lot longer. Now we're into the last puzzle. And then I imagine there'll be something more.
Your survival is of small importance compared with the survival of humanity as we know it.
We stepped onto this platform and we were forced to do that. I mean, there really was no way. And typically in level design, I would assume that's just so that you could see that that door opens, and these glowing wires do a great job of that, particularly to point you to the right direction. So this can get me through one area. This switch seems to power the magnet. That seems to rotate a platform, which I don't fully understand why you would want to make a loop system here where it would potentially pick something up and then, or just put the robot in there and then have that power on and off, because that really does seem like it is just going to do the same thing over and over again for not really a good reason, unless it is our desire and our need to have the robot have an energy pellet floating upward so that we can grab it. But I don't see the point of that. Also don't really see the point of that either. It's like they are intentionally trying to find ways in which you would just have more trouble than normal. Because this seems like this works fine. And then this seems like this works fine. And then over here, we have a switch that I guess Tom needs to interact with. Which, oops. So how do we get Tom? Because he can't interact with it through the window, which seems like really dumb technology, the way all of this works. So we need to get the robot over here, not the human, which shouldn't be particularly any more difficult than anything than doing it the other way. Just go over here, and then can I not take control of the robot through the window? No, I cannot. Interesting. So then the robot has to be picked up somehow. Still not really sure how this changes much though. There's seemingly no control panel. No, here it is. You have to hold the X button. Okay. Back. Up and down, up and down. Probably not with the energy, with the robot, but instead with the power pack. Let's see. We can't get out from control of that, so thus the switch here. So this over here, and this here, and then human goes, I guess, down in the bottom. Interesting. So we need this to be visible. I'll just go ahead and give an energy pellet here. So energize the pellet there. That moves the human to block the door. When he goes around in a circle a second time, which you can't even see, this should open this door. Which then lets me through here, which then lets me activate this, and I think at that point we are done. And I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to pause the recording right now. And we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for the pause there. We're kind of down to the final point here. While there's a lot of ideas I could throw out here, that maybe Sarah's not real and she is an artificial intelligence that Tom created, and the Turing test is to see if Sarah can convince Ava, who is a human, that she's a human. Maybe Ava's not real, and the whole point of this Turing test was for Tom to prove that he could make a human. We've never actually seen our face or our hands or anything like that, but also it is very believable that Tom might just be able to completely biologically engineer a humanoid, human robot hybrid type thing, android. Maybe Daniel, here's a crazy thought, maybe Daniel isn't just dismissing the captain. Maybe Daniel's actually Tom, and Tom has long since been gone. You could throw that idea in here. But really all I'm doing is adding in plot twists to the straightforward and obvious writing of this game that almost certainly will not happen. Even in the last conversation we had where he said, do you know what happens if this organism attaches to a baby? There was a whole baby idea that was thrown out there, a pregnancy idea. So there would have been a way Tom could have said, well, I do know what happens when this organism attaches to a baby because it happened. He says, do you know what happens if the organism attaches to cancerous cells? The biochips in which Tom has been able to control people have probably the capability, or logically they would have the capability to scan potentially for some cancerous cells. So it would be easy enough to say one of the characters did have a small bit of cancer and it just expanded and killed the person. That's even a great way to set off this whole chain of events. A cancer cell gets exposed to the organism, it grows eternally, forever, it lives eternally. Thus, one of the people on the base basically explodes into a mass of flesh and dies. The base crew thinks Tom did it with the hand chips. Tom knows that it actually was the organism. The only way this really boils down to a story as it is written, though, is much like spoilers for QUBE 2, much like that, it feels like there's going to be a false choice here where you really don't have two people combating. You really just have one person testing Ava. I still think the most reasonable twist you would have here is that Sarah is either under control of Tom or Sarah is long since dead, and Tom is just using audio recordings of Sarah to make it seem like she's still alive, and that one video recording. There's not much of a choice in almost all of these scenarios, though, because it's either you believe Tom enough about the bioorganism and then you logically should side with Tom and kill the handful of people on the base, or you reject every single thing Tom has ever said. You just label him a crazy AI liar that maybe is obsessed with the Chinese room experiment and the Turing test experiment. He built this test just to solve that logical question in his mind. There is no organism, and thus the humans can safely go back to Earth, which is a major risk, frankly. Like, the threat itself is such a large risk that you have to kind of still side with Tom. The things that would maybe make you make a last second choice to side with the humans, is if they said they're just trying to contact ISA, they're not trying to get back or destroy Tom or take over control and basically mutiny. If they sounded reasonable, you might make a last second decision with them. And certainly the game has tried to push us into making a last second decision. Well, no, the game has been trying to push us from the beginning of the game to make a decision and side with the humans. And it's just really smacked in the face of any logic, considering how we understand the situation. But yeah, that was the last puzzle. We have this little area, and then we're going into a round loading section. And so we can just look at a loading section. Unless there's an extra puzzle, which I kind of doubt, or some kind of crew quarters or something to walk around. I think we're kind of done. We turned on the drill. That didn't seem to have any effect on anything. And we...
Ava, you made it. Welcome to the end of civilization.
I don't see any... I don't see her. It would be nice to actually see her. And so, in Portal, this was the halfway point when you started to see behind the scenes of everything. We either go this way, and they've just like torn into the walls. Although why there would be a platform and walls at all, I don't know. Or you see if you could possibly solve this puzzle, which honestly it seems completely impossible. Because look, this is not connected to anything, and then this is not connected to anything, and this is not connected to anything, and this is not connected to anything. So even if there was going to be a powering of things, it would be like this could light up that, but it won't light up that. So we can steal those 3 energy pellets, and that's pretty much all we can do.
2 weeks ago, we discovered an organism here.
It really has been 400
Buried
hours?
in this ice, we found an organism that repairs
I still have
DNA.
control, but I'm all crouched down
aging.
now.
A cure for death, immortality.
It's like I'm
It runs through
a robot now, and I've just all of a
Tom
sudden
wants to
realized
bury us here
that
with
that
it.
was my perspective. Like, the whole game, perhaps we've been shown a false image on top of ourselves, a hologram on top of ourselves. We totally feel shorter. Like, well, it kind of breaks it when I move and I can still see my hands. Yeah. Here, our head matches this, and then it doesn't match. Well, maybe it does, but that's all odd and awkward. We're still seeing our hands. It would be funny if our hands started to disappear and we started to see other things. And I don't know if we actually have the energy pellets still. This is just like really late in the game to do this trick, particularly since people have seen Portal already.
The ISA have ruled that we have
I have control.
transgressed
They took
ethical
control,
boundaries by
by the
exposing
way.
ourselves
I'm
to
not
this
pressing any
organism.
buttons.
They believe the organism is too dangerous to return to Earth. They've sent you here to stop us ever leaving Europa.
Possessed.
But Ava,
Can we control the camera?
We have a cure for the greatest evil that faces humanity. Death. We have the fountain of youth, and together we can return it to Earth.
There's a pretty good Doctor Who spin-off series called Torchwood, and one season is called Miracle Day, in which humans just live forever, and it shows all the horrible things that happens when humans live forever. Particularly if, say, you got your head chopped off and you're still alive, how miserable that would be. Or if you're just like a brain in a jar. Death, well, death really isn't a positive or a negative thing. It's a thing that societally has to happen, though,
Tom
as
placed
long
a
as
mark in your
babies
hand,
happen.
a biometric chip with which he can control your every movement and thought.
Yeah, we already know that.
It is wound into your every nerve, every fiber of your hand. With an electromagnetic field, it can be temporarily disturbed, but to remove its influence permanently, it must be taken from your hand.
So she opens her...
Give me your hand.
She opens her
Do you want me to set you free?
And you see a human.
Yes.
We get no choice here. Remember, we're controlling Tom, not Ava. And so now we're jumping through that. And we can see them walking back through the puzzles. Where are they?
Ava? Sarah? What are you doing here?
We're shutting you down, Tom.
Ava, be careful. He has a live weapon in here.
Everything I ever did, I did for good. This organism, it cannot return to Earth. It would cause great suffering.
A cure for death. It would end suffering.
No. Cancers that never die. Endless illness, sickness, poverty, overpopulation, mass starvation. You cannot control this. You will not save the world. You will damn it.
Oh,
Once
I have
we've
to
shut you down,
jump.
We're going home.
Not if I stop you.
So,
You must not return to Earth. You must not leave Europa. I will do the right thing. I will stop you.
You won't. You can't.
I can't?
You monster!
Ava? Ava?
I think I can.
Ava?
And I don't question it for a second.
Ava? Wake
I'm
up.
playing as Tom. Tom seems to believe what he says.
Ava?
So this is the bad ending / good ending. Congratulations, you have passed the Turing test. And so how many people worked on this game? See, it seems like with credits like this, you probably aren't going to have more than 20 or 30 people. It's weird that none of these people are getting named as far as what they actually did. I guess the general assumption is all of those were programmers / artists. I mean, everything here was a Unity asset flip. And then they spent some of Square Enix's money on 6 actors, which is kind of weird. And then 2 musicians, and the music wasn't outstanding. It wasn't terrible. But there certainly isn't an original soundtrack here that's really interesting. And we're already to the special thanks. Yeah. I guess maybe I'm just more logically minded than most people. They did give you have a slight issue. There's my timer. I'm having to use a different timer, so I didn't have it turned off. Sorry. Unreal Engine 4. It's nice that they used Unreal Engine 4, but that doesn't really mean anything. It just created the situation where this team learned the newest technology, and they didn't implement it particularly well by any means. Yeah. As far as the story, though, yeah, I think that was the right choice. I think that's the good ending. They never gave us a point for Tom, the character we're playing as, to disbelieve himself, or even give a hint that he might be glitchy or wrong. There definitely could have been some writing in there that would have expressed that his memory banks had been corrupted. Just sci-fi jargon, gibberish, needed to be thrown in there. And Sarah never says anything really to say that Tom's perspective is wrong, other than the moral, selfish argument, the human argument. And I don't think you'd get a different ending if you had shot Sarah instead of Ava first. I'm not sure which one I actually did shoot, since they're both in outfits. You could have easily had one of the outfits be a different color. One being like a blue, one being white. That would have been easy enough to differentiate the two characters. I kind of want to experience the second ending. Is there a way to do that? Here. Let's see. Chapter select. Epilogue. Start. The only way you kind of get the bad ending, I think, is if you
Ava, you made it.
if you
Welcome to the
simply
human
didn't
civilization.
teleport yourself fast enough.
2 weeks ago, we discovered an organism
I
here.
guess because it crouches you down, you
Buried
can't
in
run.
this ice, we found an organism that repairs DNA. A cure for aging. A cure for death. Immortality.
The fact that this section
It
is
runs
labeled
through
as the
our blood
epilogue
now.
really goes to show how
Tom wants
little
to bury us here with it.
little of importance all of that is, because the whole game really is about the puzzles, and the puzzles do run into this
The
problem of
ISA
not
have
being
ruled that we have
specifically
transgressed ethical boundaries
interesting
by
enough.
exposing ourselves to this organism.
They're too
We believe the
complicated,
organism is
too simple,
dangerous to return to Earth.
not complicated by any
They
means.
sent you here to stop us ever leaving Europa.
In all fairness, Portal 1's puzzles,
Ava, we
the first
have a
half of
cure
them
for
at
the
least,
greatest
are
evil that faces
pretty
humanity.
simple too, but they have kind of a
We
way
have
in
the
which
fountain of
they
youth, and
added
together we can
some
return it to
challenges on
Earth.
top of them to make them interesting enough to play a second time. I probably played Portal 1 3 or 4 times over the course of the last 10 years, and it's never felt anything but awesome to do. Even like the first couple of puzzles. Even when the first puzzle is just something very simple. Take note, I had no control while walking through this
Place the
section,
mark in
so
your hand,
they
a
just made that
biometric
hallway
chip
too
with
long
which you can control your
for
every
the
movement
line
and
of
thought.
dialogue.
It is wound
They either
into
needed
every nerve,
another
every fiber
line
your
of
hand.
dialogue or
With an
to
electromagnetic field, it can be temporarily disturbed. but
shorten the hall.
to remove its
Shortening the hall would
influence
have been
permanently,
easier.
It must be taken from your hand.
See, she has this like orange,
Give me your hand.
oranges
Do you want me to set you
visor.
Yes.
It's slightly interesting that you it's slightly interesting that you never had control of the main character of the story,
Ava?
but
Sarah?
not
what
really.
Are you doing here?
Yeah, and I
We're
guess
shutting
you
you
could have
down,
just
Tom.
free? Ava,
failed.
be careful. He has a live weapon in here.
You could have just
Everything
completely
I ever did, I
failed.
did for good.
And here it
This
says
organism, it cannot
server
return to
room.
Earth. It would cause great suffering.
A cure for death. It would end suffering.
No. Cancers that never die. Endless illness, sickness, poverty, overpopulation, mass starvation. You cannot control this. You will not save the world. You will damn it.
Once we've shut you down, we're going
We
home.
should have walked by
Not
this
if I
silver
stop
room.
You must
Yeah,
not
you
return
can't-
to Earth.
Can't really
You
tell.
must not leave Europa.
I think maybe
I
that's
will do the
Sarah.
right thing. I will stop you.
You won't. You can't.
So they're tearing out power cells from the looks of it, which is not something we see them do in the game at all. I don't know.
This is my mind. You're in my mind.
Now you know how it feels.
I feel afraid. Please, Ava, don't do this.
Yeah, I don't know how any of this really relates to the Turing test, though. This is totally not the point of the Turing test. I guess maybe the general idea is that this game was supposed to make you feel like Tom was a real human. even though, despite the fact that he's constantly saying he's not a human, even though he's constantly
want
saying
to
he has
die.
a feeling.
I'm not ready.
Yeah. Is this black goo or is this wires? Yeah, you pass either way. So, yeah. The human ending doesn't do anything different than the other ending, and it's not much of a different story. Let's see, I'm gonna open up a web browser and see if we can get to the beginning and skip this. Alright, so we could start a new game, or we can just start the prologue. And let's see. Turing Test code. See if that works while this loads. There you go. So I've got it.
Morning, Ava. Your
See,
wake up has been
can we
sanctioned
skip
by
through
the
this?
ISA.
We'll look at the
We lost
beginning
contact
since we
with the
can't
ground
skip it.
crew 450 hours ago.
So he was
We
true,
have tried to
honest
establish
about
further
that.
communications, but we are not getting any responses.
It feels like Tom knew all of this, or at least the instance on the ground
We need you to
of Tom
investigate.
knew this, and then
Okay, doesn't it
would have
make
known
sense
all
to
of
do
this
visual checks
a lot
first?
We have
earlier.
already looked at the data.
And so
The ISA has made the executive decision that you report to the surface.
it seems like he's just trying to establish
What exactly is the emergency?
The ground crew found an organism
a
the
rapport
ISA
with you,
believed to be
I guess for
dangerous.
some
We need to
reason.
re-establish communication.
Yeah, he basically tells you about the organism at the beginning. So it would have just been a slight changing in writing to say, hey, we think this organism has taken control of them and driven them crazy. We never got an idea of what this flag is. Like, from all the nationalities of all the people, the blue, white, blue flag wasn't something. And so each of these people, originally you would thought that they were, I would have thought they were in here, or that maybe even they were clones in here. And then this guy's just a Canadian guy who's dead, who they wrote out of the story. But they're not in there. They're not cryogenically asleep. They're not being. So those are just empty quarters. There's really no reason why they wouldn't have let us in the quarters at that point to look around. I don't think that there's anything of real importance here. But later in the game, we saw a code, and I didn't write it down. Thank goodness we have the internet, so we know that the code is 7611732, and that lets us go into the Captain Daniel's office, which we never got any resolution as far as where he was or what was going on with that. And here we have a teleoperation room. See, Tom, organism 119 is dangerous. Organism 119 must not leave Europa. Organism 119 must be destroyed. The crew should be encouraged to continue studying organism 111. Any attempts by the crew to leave Europa should be discouraged. Data. And then some code. Like, so this is an ISA communication. Tom, the crew does not seem responsive to our actions thus far. We need you to wake up Ava. She should be sent to the surface to investigate. Tom, the crew does not seem responsive to action thus far. We need to wake up Ava. She should be sent to the surface to investigate. End of correspondence. Why it's getting repeated, why the same message is getting repeated basically twice, I don't know. Tell operation room locked. So the captain knew about this stuff, which is not surprised. Let's see. I really wish I could zoom in here. To whom it may concern, I am sure the record shows my utmost respect and loyalty for Isa. I encourage you to read the reports of my exemplary performance as commander of missions. However, must announce that to my shame, that I have not been able to control an uprising of the Europa ground crew. Despite ISA's directives, the ground team has sought to leave Europa and return to Earth. They have compromised most of the ship's security. As such, I am convinced that they have the capability to stage a return to Earth. I guess they could get back to Earth. The technical operations machine permitted me transit to the Fortune. From here, I am requesting a manual override for the Tom technical operations machine. I know that Tom is not promoted to harm any human life, but I have to put an end to this mess. So are you not playing as Tom at all? You're playing as the captain? It seems like that is the case. And here we have some kind of code, which feels like just more augmented reality Easter egg stuff. Which here is, I guess, maybe an early prototype gun that would have been in the game. And it looks a lot like the needle gun in Prey that they use to shoot things into their eyes. Here we have what looks like a drill, like the drill. Here we have another Canadian flag. They really love their Canadian nationality. So I'm thinking this is going to be the real revelation that it's not Tom at all that's been playing.
Final log of Captain Daniel McLean. I don't really believe in a god. If there is one, I hope he's forgiving. Maybe Sarah was right. Maybe we should go home. There's just too much on the line here. I used to dream of exploring the stars, being humanity's great hope for knowledge. But this is no boy's dream. I hope you understand why I did this. If you're listening, Ava, just go to the surface. I didn't have the strength. I am sorry.
So, yeah, it seems like maybe Tom did kill himself. Or, I mean, Captain Daniel either killed himself, or he is in this room right now controlling Tom. I guess it depends on what you mean by manual override. Like, did he override Tom's inability to kill humans, which clearly they weren't expecting that at the end, which, or is he completely being controlled? I kind of feel like Tom's being completely controlled, but then I don't know what the whole point of the Turing Test element would be if the captain was actually just controlling Tom, the robot, the whole time. See, Ava, I can't give you what you need. Just go to the surface, Dan. So apparently Captain Daniel maybe was romantically involved with Ava. We really didn't get any story like that. Yeah. So, yeah, you kind of have to assume that this is a case of the of the game specifically telling you
Pick up your EMT.
that
It's on the side.
that
Okay. We are going to take a lander to Europa.
that
way
Tom
to
was
the docking
just
station.
computer overridden, so that he could kill people, but Tom is still in control otherwise. What I was expecting in this room was a different EMT, something that would just give us a infinite amount of energy. Without that as an option, I don't really see much of a reason. And what was the point of animating this climbing down? We never climbed down another thing at all. Like, somebody wasted some money on this animation for sure. They would have been so easy to have the spaceship on one floor. And then you have the landing animation, which is another thing. And then you have that folding up ladder, which is another thing.
What's the ship's status?
I have performed the necessary checks. The Europa lander is ready to launch.
Let's see. I want to just kind of get to a save point. And then after I get to a save point, I'm willing to exit. A whole bunch of this area
Bay
has
3.
nothing in it. Alright, there we saved. So, let's see, quit to the main game. There's nothing under settings. And there's one thing I want to see if I could possibly do an extra puzzle in what I think is level 1. Yeah. Chapter 1. Sector 6. And let's see, we'll try Sector 7 and see if we can actually get to that extra room from Sector 7.
So if this base is
Here it
managed
is.
by you, why can't you find the crew?
The base's communication array is malfunctioning.
Let's let that talk for a second while I look and see if there was another restricted area that we missed. I don't think we did. There's just this one, and I listened to him when he said, I don't think we can solve this yet.
Perhaps we can't solve this yet.
Like, they say that immediately, and the truth is, yes, you can't solve it yet because you simply just don't have the solution told to you until much later in the game. And the solution, I don't have it right in front of me, but I believe it's something along that line. Okay. And then I'm just trying to see if there's a different restricted section that I missed as I'm looking through a full walkthrough right now. Apparently, in Chapter 4, we ran into Daniel's room, and that probably makes sense, but I didn't put any real interesting things. Let's see. There's a restricted area following Europa. We did that. That was the super long puzzle. So yeah, we've done every other extra area. It's just this. This just goes out into the mining area, which, had I been somehow capable of getting to this area very early, that would have been kind of great. We don't see a lot of this, and it would have been helpful if half the hallways did kind of look like this and it was disconnected. Here we have Minos Brook as a grave. Is that the guy that Tom killed? Which I guess Tom probably was overridden at that point. So, yeah, there's not a lot here. And we can't control anything, and we can't swap to Tom or do anything like that early in the game. It's not like we had some extra abilities that we just didn't know we could do, which doesn't make a lot of sense because Tom should have been able to know this. In fact, in this case, we kind of know for a fact that well, this is slow. Like, we kind of know for a fact that there's not even a Tom here.
This doesn't add up.
What does not add up?
If there was an accident, surely
Yeah,
they'd come to
here's the
find
Tom.
me, not try to lock me out.
My instance is still resolving conflicts. I expect they have their reasons.
See, Tom is even slightly nice as he's trying to resolve the instances, but apparently he kind of never has a crossover point where he goes, my instances have been resolved, I now know what's going on, and then he turns into the bad guy. It'd be kind of interesting to have an AI be your helper and useful in the first couple chapters and then turn into the bad guy later. Alright, there's not really a lot to say here extra. As far as compared to the spoilers for the end of QUBE2, it did seem like you had two choices, and they were legitimate choices. This face of Ava probably should have been used more in the actual game so you could actually see her. It would have been nice at some point if you'd seen like the reflection. That was one of the things that Portal did really nicely, is that they very intentionally made it so you had to place at least a few portals in a way that you would see Chell, see that she was a girl or a woman, and try and relate to her. We didn't see any of that. This is much closer to like a Metroid Prime 1 where you kind of never see Samus Aran's face. Even in Metroid Prime 1 though, you sometimes see a reflection. And being able to relate with Ava would have definitely helped the story they were trying to tell, instead of just thinking of her as a generic human, which is basically all I did think of her as, is just an average generic human. Like, my first decision after playing both endings still would be to shoot him. It still feels like it's the right thing. There needed to be room for more doubt. I don't inherently hate that there isn't much of a resolution there. I doubt that there would be a sequel to this game, just considering how Square Enix obviously didn't even fund the finishing of this game and polishing it up. And maybe if there was more funding, the story would have been better written and there would have been a lot more puzzles. But we got 70 puzzles. That's more than enough. Another 30 to 100 maybe would have been okay, but really wouldn't have changed much. The problem is that this is a very weighty title in the concept of the Turing Test. It really doesn't have much, if anything, to do with the Turing Test. It tries to be very philosophical like the Talos Principle, but does it poorly. Unlike the Talos Principle, there's just better puzzle games out there that tries to throw in some philosophy. And frankly, I would argue that new teams, like the Talos Principle, it was made by Crow Team, the makers of Serious Sam. So they had made games before. Maybe they hadn't written deep philosophical games before, but they had an experience there. Whereas I think new teams trying to make puzzle games should just focus on making good puzzle games and then do the Kickstarter thing to hire a outsourced writer to put in a story on top of it. Not start with the idea of a story and then try to wrap generic puzzles around it, because that's really what this is. I think I will try, we'll do one bonus episode after this, trying the demo, just to see what it was. but I wouldn't be surprised if it's only 5 minutes and just gets attached to the end of this recording. That's going to be it for this series effectively, though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game or gift me a gift card. If you want to check out some of the other games I've mentioned, for instance, Portal 1, Portal 2, Talos Principle, QUBE 1 and 2, quite a few of these types of puzzle games I've covered. So check out my playlist tab. I have a playlist for every game I've ever covered. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.